we are consuming 1.7 times of the resources, or 1.7 times faster than what we are producing. And that is attributed to this shift from circular economy, which used to practice before, to linear economy. There was something which was very interesting. This lady Swati, she shared. It's called a butterfly diagram. I picked up only one part of it, which is called the biological cycle and the technical cycle. On the technical cycle side, it said that the lower is your number in R ladder, the lesser is your carbon footprint. Just to make it very simple, the lower is your number on the R ladder, the lesser is the harm you're creating to the environment. And if you look that as a strategy, that I would like to work closer to R0 than farther from R0. Okay? And that's a strategy that if you are able to build within your habits, your way of living, your businesses, the way you look at this, and also refuse, rethink, reduce. So the topic is about moving from linear to circular living. But what does that mean? Just to put this context, this was around 7-8 years or maybe some time back when I was really amazed at this finding that we are consuming 1.7 times of the resources, or 1.7 times faster than what we are producing. And that is attributed to this shift from circular economy, which used to practice before, to linear economy. And recently there was one symposium where this was again highlighted, that the capacity of production in our earth, which can produce in, and I want to like people to dwell on this thought, that this is where we are today and how do we sustain our living. And that's why sustainable living, while consuming more than what we are able to produce. So that shift from the linear economy we have got so used to, of take, make, use, and dispose, and trying to see how we can go back to our traditional methods which we have practiced. I have been through a childhood where I remember having a fourth hand cycle, clothes coming from my brothers or family, and wearing them. So what has happened that we have forgotten those traditions. So that's what, and there are some links which there's a lot of information available on the website when you want to dwell into this. And just to make it very simple, I try, let us understand what is circular economy as a broad outline. So traditionally, I would, if you go back to your houses and you talk to your grandmother or people from the age era where we are, who have gone through 1950s to 1980s, 1990s in their adulthood, you'll find that this was a practice where we were continuing to keep our resource in a circle. And that's what we could call as circularity, which is now named as circularity. It was a way of life for us so for so many years. So if we look at this concept and look at how we as individuals are able to practice this, क्या हम अपने अपने जो रहन सहन है, जो हम जिस तरह से रहते हैं, क्या हम अपने आप को सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी, एक सस्टेनेबल वे की तरफ ले जाने में यूज कर सकते हैं? तो I brought some perspectives, and as Tishan mentioned about sustainable development goals, perhaps this has been going on for quite some time. We are always looking at SDGs, UN Sustainable Development Goals. About a year back, I did an online course on this to really understand, because I was exposed to this to some extent in 2015. Before that, I was also not aware of what SDGs meant. I just thought it was some word with the United Nations uses. I can't relate to it. And then when I dived deeper into this, I started to understand that SDGs actually, if you look at this from a distance, though there are 17 SDGs, you can break them down to something which is about the environment, which is the biosphere, the earth which we live in, the society, which is to do with poverty, to do with innovation, to do with education, health, well-being, and all of that. And the third is the economical aspect, where we are able to so we also need to sustain. So how do we, if we don't have money, how can I buy something? So the economic balance, which has a lot to do with circularity. as well. Okay? So when we look at SDG 12, for example, is about responsible consumption and production, which is directly connected to the circularity core aspect, which we started with. Moving from linear economy to circular economy is directly connected to SDG 12. And while doing so, we are also connecting all the other 16 SDGs, is what I've realized over a period of time. As we delve deeper and deeper into understanding, we did not start that we want to follow SDGs, but we realized that what we were doing was actually aligned to all the SDGs. So many times, this is something which I always tell people to be very careful, not to be driven by the outcome that I want to do SDGs, but work on the inputs which will lead me to SDGs. So ये बहुत ही एक if I go back to श्री भगवत गीता, जहाँ पे एक लाइन है, कर्म कर फल की इच्छा मत कर. अगर उसका सारांश, if I look at the meaning, so look at your inputs, not at the outcome. And if we are able to shift our mindset from looking at circularity and SDGs from what goes in to make it happen, rather than saying that I want to be circular, but how? Okay. So SDGs have a very strong relationship with circularity. It's all about our sustenance. So this slide may be very useful when you start thinking about sustainable development. This was another perspective which came up. Again, this was in February when I was not aware of this R letter again. But I keep on looking for whenever somebody mentions something, मेरे को एक बड़ी जिज्ञासा means I get to try to understand what does this actually mean. And then I started researching what is our letter. A lot of content has been available on websites, so processing that. And there was something which was very interesting. This lady Swati, she shared. It's called a butterfly diagram. I picked up only one part of it, which is called the biological cycle and the technical cycle. On the technical cycle side, it said that the lower is your number in R ladder, the lesser is your carbon footprint. Just to make it very simple, the lower is your number on the R ladder, the lesser is the harm you're creating to the environment. And if you look that as a strategy, that I would like to work closer to R0 than farther from R0. Okay? And that's a strategy that if you are able to build within your habits, your way of living, your businesses, the way you look at this, and so refuse, rethink, reduce. It is not that we are not aware of these terms. Somewhere or the other, हम अपनी जिंदगी में in our lifestyle, we are using them, we are practicing them, but we don't have a name given to them and we don't understand what this practice actually means. There's something which come at a very basic fundamental level, how you design things, and we can go over some examples on that. But it's also, once you have brought a resource into use, how is it that you are making the best out of the resource? Is when your repair, refurbish, remanufacture, repurpose, recycle with the word come in the phase after the resource has come into use from my understanding. Whereas the reuse, refuse, rethink, and reduce comes before I put the resource into my ecosystem. So try to separate these two things. I try to separate these two things when I'm taking a decision on doing something. And there I try to look at how does it relate to us. So it's a very complex jargon. What is this R letter? Now, this refuse is something which I and my wife learned from our daughter. She has actually embraced this much before we did. Our children are much better than what here I had started to find. They are much more aware. And she said to her mother, Rashmi, that when you go to DMart to buy something or to a supermarket, look at that rack. And before you pick up that thing, ask yourself, close your eyes, ask yourself one more time, do I really need this? That's where you refuse to buy something which you don't do. And consumerism is somewhere challenged. So refusing and consumerism are interconnected. And the second part comes from a lot of times we talk about sharing resources. So that's rethinking the strategy. So one of the things which I consciously do is if I'm traveling to Delhi, for example, or in Mumbai, the first thing I look for is, do I have a public transport which I can take? I can be comfortable, I can do it in my time, or am I able to adapt my time so that I can use that common resource? That is rethinking my strategy to reduce the carbon footprint by using shared resources. It's a very simple thing which you can do in life. Sharing your car, sharing your transport, sharing your resources is something which can be practiced in our daily life, and it becomes a habit. All these things are something to do which is coming from inside. Somebody from outside can't force it. It will be possible only when you start realizing this into your own inner consciousness. Okay, I want to practice this. Then comes reduce. And it was again a very recent example for us from my personal life. Again, I'm trying to relate because it's something which we can do every day. When we built our house initially around 10 years ago, it had 3, 4 bedrooms, and our daughter was there. My in-laws used to come here, or some guests used to come here. Now, after 8, 9 years, only I and my wife are there. The daughter is out of the country. In-laws are not able to come. And we are using a very big facility, which we are not going to use at any time. So the first floor, we would not go for 3 months, 6 months. Again, our daughter told us, sir, why are you doing this? Why don't you move into a smaller house? She helped us, and what we thought was a security for her, she said it's a liability for her. Look at this understanding that she said, this is not security, this is liability. How will I manage this when I am going out? And it was in September or October 2024, we took a decision to sell that house and build a house with only 2 bedrooms. And that's what is being constructed right now. Now, that is one of the very recent examples of reduce at a very macro level. It's very difficult to detach from your home, which you have built yourself. So that emotional detachment is very essential to bring inside you if I want to practice reduce. And after doing this, a lot of people in our society would say, we also think this is right. But and now there are people with such big houses over there, 2 floors, 3 floors, and who's living? 2 people are living in that. From emotions, we build something very big, but can we look at reducing? Minimalism is exactly what you would look at as a reflection. So reduce is about minimalism in a way. So these are basic planning stage, which are more to do with before you start using the resources. And then reuse is, we are used to this, and we have some apps today like OLX and XY, such apps, which are promoting reuse. Now, if I look at that app, it's not about am I able to make money from something. I'm seeing that whatever has been produced has a life remaining. Am I able to reuse it till the end of life of that product or that material, that resource? And repair is something which is very common for us in India. I think it's not something which we do, but over a period of time, what has happened is because of this availability of cheaper products, okay, which are coming to the market, we have got into certain habits of use and throw. We don't want to go that extra mile. Oh, won't go to that watchmaker to repair it. I just throw it and buy a new watch. I just order from e-commerce and dispose it. So those are some difficult habits, which we not so good habits that we don't try to repair. We just try to just get rid of it. So these are something which you can do in your day-to-day life. It is something which can also be done in the industry. And there's something else which I think you could reflect on, that the way you behave at your home is the same way you're going to behave in your industry. So behaviors are fungible. They will reflect. So the moment you start refusing in your home, you'll find that impact is also evident on your business. And I have seen that is in my own journey today, where I'm sitting. We are in the month of May in Gujarat, and we don't have an air conditioning over here. Okay. So the practicing of circularity starts from ourselves. So the entire office, there is no air conditioning. It's an open room, but we made a building such that we have air circulation and we are able to live in a natural habitat. It has multiple things. It may reduce my efficiency temporarily, but it is going to enhance my health substantially. So air conditioning is giving me a temporary relief, whereas not being in air conditioning is giving me a long-term sustainability of myself and enhancing my ability to live in this world in any condition. I spoke to a person a few days back. He said, I got a heat wave. He said, what happened? So I was getting into AC and then going out of AC, going into AC, going out of AC. So I was working 2 different climates in the same place. So my body was not able to. So here I'm saying I'm living in only one climate. So this is to do with something which is more inside. And then the R5 to R9 are something to do with design and innovation. So because we are talking of remanufacturing, we are talking of refurbishing, we are talking of repurposing, recycling. The closer, again, the same principle. If we are able to do something at R5, I should not go to R9. Okay? So I used to think recycling is great. Okay? When I got into the silica plastic block, and I said recycling is great, but actually it's not so great. If I was able to remanufacture it and take it into the inner cycle, okay? Let's say in R7, why should I go into R9? Just because of my commercial benefit, I am trying to I'm increasing the footprint, carbon footprint. And this is something which I started to realize in my business. And so the business should be also considered, my activity should also be considered from a perspective of which R cycle I'm using for my business. Am I looking at innovating ways? And this slide I've taken from another academy or something, but this is something which I realize because it's a part of a UN program called Empathic. This is one of the behaviors actually, which is very fundamental to innovation. It's called finds ways to do things better, faster, and or cheaper. Now, innovation, a lot of people, oh, I have done recycling, but the product is going to be more expensive. Then one of the vertices is not getting, so you are making it better, but it's not cheaper. A good innovation will be able to draw on all the three vertices at the same time. Why we have moved from circular economy to linear economy is because I'm able to get my product faster. Okay? I'm able to get my product cheaper. I may get a better product. Now, the moment I get into, and this is something which we have invested a lot of time, though we, as you mentioned about the silica plastic block, though we found the solution in somewhere in 2018, it has been around 6 years. We are trying to figure out how to do all the three vertices. Because the moment I recycle, I'm saying, no, you have to pay me 20% more for the brick I have made or 30% more. Why would somebody say that why should I pay more money? Right? So that is something which kept hitting me behind. We need to do something, and that's where our design innovation. He said, "Are we married to the brick, or are we married to resource efficiency?" So go back to the basics. The purpose of your innovation should be much stronger than the product which you are trying to sell, and look at consideration of all the three factors. Not only profit, but people, planet, and profit together, the three P's of doing business. Today, most of the people are only looking at profit. When we go to people, they say, okay, how much is your internal rate of return? Or kitna paisa banega? When I got a call for this technology, I tell people ask me about this. I just ask them a simple question. Is this a socio-economic project or is it a commercial project? If it's a pure commercial project, at the moment, we are not prepared. If it's a socio-economic project, let us discuss because this is about PPP. We don't want to encourage anything which is only on one P and other two Ps are not existing. And if the planet is priority, then we'll go to do whatever it takes to help and work together to see that it happens. So this three R5, R6, R7, R8, R9 are those elements where design, innovation, thinking out of the box, everything comes into place. So this triangle is something if you are able to embed in your mind that when I'm saying innovation, am I looking at all the three? So it's a way of looking at social and economy at the same time, not pure profit, but social and economic. So my better should not only be from profit, but the better should have people, planet, and profit all in the. It's not a single dimension. And if somebody goes deeper into SDGs, there's a method of mapping your SDG impact. There can be a negative SDG impact. There can be a positive SDG across all the 17 SDGs. So that is also one of the. It's more detailed. I've not shown it's too technical. Now, from a personal life, I'm talking of circularity as a business. As Trishan mentioned, I am running two enterprises. Rhino Machines is a machine capital goods manufacturing. I'm a second generation entrepreneur. I inherited the business from my father, but I also inherited a lot of values from my parents and the family, which lay the foundation of this business. Because there are certain things which are very foundational to this business. Is one of them which leads this and connects to circularity. At that time, we did not have anything. We had no idea what was circularity or disease, but this is something which was as a mission statement to develop solutions for energy efficiency and waste recovery as a social responsibility. Is a mission statement which was written way back in 2005, around 20 years ago, when we had nothing to do with all these jargons today. Now there's a name to it, but that's what it was that time. And Mimansa is a business which was started by my sister, Priyanka, who's also a very socially conscious, based in Mumbai, in textile apparel manufacturing. Being a textile designer and a creative person, and she was very unhappy that her textiles would go into landfills. So she would say that I don't want anything to go into landfill. So we have to become a zero waste company. 2015, we came together to form this new company, Mimamsa, along with my wife, Rashmi, who has been the pillar. Is the three of us came together with similar consciousness of sustainable development at the core, circularity as a practice. So those founding pillars, going through all the commercial difficulties of even today, I would say that manufacturing is still not sustainable. But somehow we said that we'll do what we can do and sustain it. So Mimamsa from textile, we found that while Rhino Machines was in manufacturing machines, which is setting up projects, Mimamsa is a production company, which is into putting that technology which Rhino produces into manufacturing activity. And together, we look at this technical cycle. So fabric, we upcycle. So any side cut which comes in Mimamsa, so nothing goes out of the factory. Everything is converted. Before COVID also, we started this initiative of working with NGOs who would send the cut fabric, convert it into bags, jolas, find a market. It's not so easy. But some people came forward, for example, Tyco in Powai, Mumbai, as superstore, as supermarket, has subscribed to this and they keep this as a checkout bag, saying not a white bag, saying we'll take whatever fabric it should look something decent. So from the side cuts, we are processing them into checkout bags kept at supermarket. So one is remove plastic, so people went for bags. But again, if you're making a bag from a new material, it doesn't connect to circularity. It doesn't connect to sustainability as much as using an existing resource which is put back into use, which otherwise would go into landfill. Okay? So we just shifted the R ladder from, let's say, to remanufacture, re-engineer something and bring it back to the cycle. The principle was of using that R ladder a step ahead. And a year ago, when we started looking at silica plastic block as a technology which required a good amount of effort to incubate, we set up this manufacturing unit in Anand with Mimamsa. And as a social responsibility, Rhino Machines supported Mimamsa with the equipment, technology, space, and together we have been able to co-create a lot of varieties of products which can go. And we also found that we could even take the smallest shred and have been able to put this into the same silica plastic block as a filler, which means there's not a single piece of fabric that should go out of our factory. As a technology, we have been able to establish. And this is bringing together different resources. Plastic block, of course, is a technology which combines the industry dust and the low value plastic, which today is one of the biggest challenges. Right? Though we did not start from plastic, again, just to put a disclaimer that we had no idea what plastic was till 2017-18. We have been in core foundry business, which is metal casting. We are dealing with sand, we are dealing with machines, hydraulics. And one of the industry came up with a problem. What do we do with the dust which is coming out of the reclamation plant? So we had set up a recycling unit, but the discard was what was the plan. So was a problem for them. So we looked at putting this back. We found plastic as a solution. That's how silica plastic block formed. And over a period of time, we have done several experiments, socio-economic experiments, sent it to labs, send it to research centers, send it to an NGO, given it to startups, set up in a Nepal Municipal Corporation, and so on. So this is how we have incorporated circularity into this. And this is the last summary of how we would look at Rhino, Mimamsa, and the silica plastic block technology is transforming today's waste into tomorrow's resource. In my and our founders, all of us have one very common belief. There is no waste. There's nothing like waste. There's only a resource. It's just how we look at that and how do we bring it back into the system and how do we see that we look at the R ladder and that material which is going out and what is the best strategy we can do to reduce that carbon. So thank you very much for this.